Namaste, everyone. It's Michelle Skaletski-Boyd, intuitive medium and best-selling author. And this talk is going to contain light codes of energetic frequencies designed to activate peace and harmony so you can feel truly supported and truly in oneness with yourself, which is the alignment with 5D reality. I'm going to take a minute just to explain a little bit about timeline shifting, because this up-leveling is really like jumping a timeline, except for instead of doing it in an unconscious way or looking back on it and realizing what occurred, you're actually doing it consciously. So I'm going to just spend a brief amount of time talking about different ways that we can timeline shift, and how many of you have already timeline shifted in perhaps you just didn't know that that's what it was called. So when my husband and I first got engaged, he proposed to me, and during that moment of proposal, it was like everything started going really slow for me in terms of energy. It's like everything started really slowing down. He's down on one knee and he's asking me to marry him. And it was like I had my free will in terms of my choice became very apparent. I wasn't aware that this was called a timeline shift. Back then I wasn't into a lot of these terms, but I knew with my tears that were flowing that they were bittersweet tears. They were tears of joy because I was going to be married and moving into a new reality that I had always dreamed of. And yet there were also tears of sadness because I was closing the door on a life that I had really also enjoyed in terms of being single. This happens during milestones in our life, these timeline shifts that bring about these different kinds of emotions. And it's, your life is just not the same. So these timeline passages are happening every day. And we see them with friends, with family, with ourselves, be it engagement or birth announcements, marriage, graduation, divorce, death. They're all transitions. And some are sacred acts of initiation and others we're less conscious of. So I want to talk for a moment about the Mandela Effect. Now, many people I know have heard of the Mandela Effect, but I suspect that there are some of you who are watching who have not. So I'm going to briefly cover it. The Mandela Effect, for some of you, feels like a lot of fluff because you came into the timeline that we currently are in. And so it doesn't make any sense to you. But for many people, especially people who are conscious now that they have jumped timelines, they do remember Nelson Mandela dying, for example, in prison. They remember in the 80s seeing the clips that he had died in prison. That was a completely different reality. I know as a kid, I had read Bernstein Bear books, and I was very good at spelling, and I read lots and lots of books. I used to get awards at school for reading so much. And back then, all of the Bernstein Bear books were spelled with S-T-E-I-N at the end. Now, you look on any of the books, you look on any of the library shelves, you even look at the copyright ones way back when, and the spelling is S-T-A-I-N. And so these are energetic timelines where we jumped into a different reality. And it happened for many of us very unconsciously. I have a friend who's an impersonator, for those of you over on the Facebook group. He's part of that. He's an impersonator for Forrest Gump. And he, for many, many years, always said, life is like a box of chocolates. And when I brought to his attention this Mandela Effect, I said, go back now and look at the movies, look at the line. It is no longer life is like a box of chocolates. It is life was like a box of chocolates. Now, this is a real mind melt for those of us who were in that reality of, for example, the Bernstein instead of stain, or in the is like a box of chocolates instead of was. For those of you who are in this timeline, it's all that you ever knew. And so it feels like we're making it up. All I'm saying is that it's very similar to, unless you're actually in the experience itself, you can't really put it into words or describe it. And that's what these timeline shifts are about. So this is about the experience of consciously beginning to shift into a timeline that no longer contains pain and suffering. So knowing that we're running multiple dimensional timelines simultaneously, we can then agree that there are indeed parallel realities that we're stepping in and out of, both unconsciously and consciously. So perhaps, now this is just my take, but perhaps this is why 2020 was given the title when it was given the title, is so that we could have this perception and realize the timeline shifts in our own realities. So look back on how many times that we as a collective have shifted timelines just in the last couple of years. And what I'm referring to in this case is really allowing the reality to keep playing out in a different way. Look, for example, what's happening to government. Look what's happening to overall politics. Look what's happening in terms of leadership. So this is part of the Great Awakening. We're reclaiming different aspects of ourselves. Today I'm going to be doing a few card pulls, and they're going to be designed to help you with the 5D activation. And all the cards that are being selected are divinely timed so that in some way, some shape, some form, they're going to be helpful to you. So the activations are here to help you not only keep perceiving the world with personal self-awareness and self-trust and self-acceptance, which I've talked about for many years, but they're also here to assist you in moving you through the new high-frequency portals of energy with ease and grace as your most authentic Pukka self. So this might be a new word for you. I love SoulFelt words. And the word is Pukka, P-U-K-K-A. Merriam-Webster's defines this word as genuine, honest, and true. And Pukka is a word that originates from various languages to include Hindu and Sanskrit. And it means, it kind of translates to maturity and goodness, while also conveying a solid reliance on the form of purity and authenticity. So I'm going to begin by doing some card pulls, and then we're going to go into 5D activation, a meditation around being able to step into your Pukka self in terms of your authenticity, your truth, with ease, with grace, with joy, with harmony. And that's what this portal of energy, this invitation is all about, to remind you to really move out on faith and to enjoy the energies. So it is Rhinoceros, and be strong, be courageous. It brings in a couple archangels, Sandalphon and Rokiel. This fortitude and their love of earth has enabled them to ascend into 5D. Now, I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried, and by the way, anybody who has this deck or knows this deck, not everything is about 5D. So this is really fascinating that the very first card we pull has to do with fifth dimension. So their soul mission, the soul mission of Rhinoceros, is to act as bridges between source and earth. I'm not going to go into the whole message. I just want to give you a feeling of it. I'm going to tell you my very first thing that I saw when I looked at this card is the obvious division in color in terms of duality. We just talked in the very beginning a great deal about twos and about relationships and about ego and about division from who we are as a person when we fall into Maya, we fall into the illusion that can occur. So there's something very powerful about this card. I want to just also mention for my Reiki friends, you can see the very strong symbol here. Now, if this symbol is upside down, right, which pay attention, there's obviously some energies that are perhaps working against. So what I'm feeling very strongly for is that you've been working hard, and it has to do with health, and you're working against yourself energetically. So your polarities in terms of energies, if you know energy medicine and remember the conversation, the polarities of energies are working against each other like railroad tracks right now. And so what's occurring is you don't know whether or not you're coming or you're going. You try to stand up, for example, and a part of your body doesn't want to move. This is all occurring, the stiffness, this rigidity, it's all occurring because you're truly energetically working against yourself in some way. It does feel like you want to legitimately put yourself out there, but your body is not necessarily wanting to cooperate and perform. Now, there's some theories about how creative energies come to be. There's theories out there around the shape and the vibration and even the sound. You know, God in the Bible says, "Let there be light," right? Light, sound, these different vibrations and waves of energy. So when we're working with two different waves of energy, one being resistance, pain, suffering, and the other our natural flow, it will feel like we don't know if we're coming or going. And so today, during the 5D activation meditation, whoever can relate to this particular card around pain in joints, in movement, in flexibility, in flow, if you have felt any of that and have lost your balance in some way, I'd like for you to recognize that this is an invitation to close those old doorways that relate to pain and suffering. And it, again, through breath and through intention. So thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for understanding what resistance feels like. Thank you for the opportunity to return myself to balance. Now, for anybody who's watching this, if you need somebody to help you and guide you and assist you even deeper, because sometimes self-awareness requires, you know, somebody to maybe perceive you in a way that you're unable to perceive yourself. I'm a medical hypnotherapist, and that has required me to dive deep into the psyche, see why the body actually forms and gets pain in certain areas, etc., and helps people move out of that. So right now, for example, I'm working with somebody who from a very young age has cerebral palsy, and I'm helping her move herself beyond the struggle in her brain that's causing the mobility issues. And so there's a lot of different things that can be done when we allow our brain, our head brain, our mind, the conscious and the subconscious, the universal awareness to begin to move into flow through our intention, through breath, and through miracles. And I call them miracles because that is indeed what they are when we remember who we are and how we are a co-creator of this beautiful, amazing reality. And so lots of figure eights, lots of breath work, really practice being in your body and trusting the flow. Move into the areas of your body that are holding the resistance and notice the shift as you invite it into the new pathway, into the new portal, into the 5D. So again, when we do the meditation and we get to a point where you are in the energies of activation using your beautiful imagination, imagine yourself releasing those areas that have shown up as stiff, tired, disjointed, etc. I'm going to use my intuition here on the deck of cards. All right, what's coming in is this particular beauty. And So King of Keys. Obviously, there's a castle in the back. We see a gentleman on horseback. So what I just want to say about this is that when I feel into the relationship, it does feel like things are starting to, like, gosh, why is my world all of a sudden coming to this head where it feels like life right now is getting a lot more difficult than it is easy. I'm going to very briefly just transition into something that occurred because it's going to apply to you. So this morning, I received a text message from a friend of mine who she just had a baby a couple years ago. It's her second child. She's engaged and she's due to have a big wedding, and they're renting. And rentals right now, in the illusionary, perspective, are really hard to come by, and life is tough. And her landlord just gave her a notice and said, hey, you have to find something. So she's freaking out. Now, I feel like there's a similar energy in terms of your life feels like it's starting to fall apart and you're wondering, what is this about? Now, in terms of the King of Keys, let's move into the energy of confidence. I have the key to my castle. I know exactly where it is I'm going. I have financial freedom. It's a beautiful day. Look at all this, right? He's in his glory. When it's upside down, pay attention, because there's something in your thinking, something in your energy field that's getting kinked in terms of your flow. Now, I'll say the same thing to you as I said to my friend this morning, and I feel like it's going to be really helpful for those of you whose world feels like, wow, this huge surprise that I didn't even want is occurring. If you look at it, and Bob Proctor, who recently passed away earlier this month, for those of you who know him, he was in The Secret. He said it this way: your life, you have two different choices in terms of free will allows you to perceive things in two different ways. I'm paraphrasing here, but you can either look from the lens of fear and move into worry and doubt and concern and trip all over yourself from an ego perspective and stay in that negativity. Or you can use your free will and use that perspective, that lens, and say, I'm going to have faith. Faith that everything is working out. Faith that the universe has my back. Faith that God, source, creator, is always working for my best interest. The more that we focus our thoughts there and our emotions there and our viewpoint there, the more that we can recognize, I have all along been co-creating this. Now, in my friend's case, she was always complaining about how her place was too small, especially now that she had the next child. It's too tiny, it's too small, we're stepping all over each other. Now look at what she's co-creating verbally and mentally and emotionally. She's letting the universe know, I'm not satisfied with this place. But what she failed to do, and which is why I'm encouraging her, because she's got a little bit of time, there's a notice here, is she has time now to zip that up and to tighten up her manifestation, which this 5D activation is going to allow you to move into that place of imagination so that you can do just that, is to move into this place of what is it that I am actually desiring. Because see, when we focus on what it is we don't want, we are getting proof every single day that that is the direction that we're going to be moving. Guess what? You don't like this place. It's too small. It's too tight. It's too inconvenient. You're now verbalizing it and sharing that with the world. Well, we'll blow it up. We'll blow it up, right? And of course we want to go, no, that's not what I meant. Well, what did you mean? Okay. So in your case, it has to do with relationship. It has to do with love. It has to do with heart energy and not getting it in return. And that's enough said. What have you been verbalizing? What have you been sharing with your friends? What have you been complaining about that now things are starting to blow up? Because the universe is saying, well, you weren't grateful for it. You complained a lot about it. So now we're just helping you create the reality of what it is that you verbalized and expressed through thoughts and emotions. So as this portal is now opened, we can really see all the things that we've done that have allowed these manifestations to occur. In the case of people who have health, how did, when you chose your food, when you chose not to exercise, when you chose to sit in front of the TV, right? Versus you had these other options. And so the universe is always conspiring in our favor, means based on what it is that we desire, what it is that our soul longs for, and what it is that our thoughts and our emotions are actually creating and manifesting for us. There's been a lot of talk and feelings and, let's say, outbursts that convey to the universe that you're not happy in this particular relationship. And because you're not happy, the universe goes, oh, we'll just help you blow it up. And the same way that the universe is helping blow up the rental. So today is about focusing on what it is you do want, what it is you do desire, shifting yourself out of that pain and suffering mode, which spins into fear, which spins into anxiety, which spins into depression, which spins into, I'm actually in a place where I just want to die, into the energies, and this is Bob Proctor's work, into the energies instead of I'm actually happy with the following things. And here's the areas that I need to tweak. Because I need to tweak these areas, I'm going to lean into the thought and into the feeling of that which my soul desires, so the universe can conspire and work in my favor in that direction. Most people know a lot about what it is they don't want, especially when something gets blown up. They say, no, that's not really what I wanted. They spend very little time on what it is they do want. So today, of all days, let's use this portal of energy. Let's use this year of 2022 to begin to lean in to those energies of which we desire. So that's what I'll say for you on that. And hopefully it was helpful. This is a new deck for me. I purchased it very recently, and it just feels really powerful. I'm just going to show you the cover again. The cards themselves, as far as the matrix, the sacred grid, just on the card is really, really powerful. It's just always so fascinating how when we talk about certain topics, how literally the universe conspires in our favor and delivers physical, tangible evidence of the conversation. We were talking about conflict. We were talking about psyche and what happens in the body, what happens with thoughts, what happens with emotions when we choose fear over faith, etc. And here now we're getting a card that has very much to do with circumstances and events that are bringing in conflict. This is a pay attention, and it does feel like as much as you have moved in the direction of releasing pain and suffering, other people around you have not. And so we're going to address what happens if you are, let's say, in a boat that's just beautifully and wonderfully going about in peace and harmony, and someone else comes in the boat and starts rocking it and moves the boat into times and places of agitation and hostility. So it signifies someone in your life as being thoughtless, being dismissive. It's unsettling, and that feels more attuned to what's going on with you right now, causing a little bit of, let's see, you have released that inner conflict and have moved into peace. And this card is confirming that, which is why it came in upside down. And the conflict is coming to an end. The reason why I'm going to set that down. The reason why it showed up now is because other people in your life who haven't done the inner work, who are still learning, or, by the way, are choosing to stay on the path of 3D, who aren't yet done with the lessons of pain and suffering, they are wanting you to be with them in the boat because, geez, why wouldn't you want a, a lighthouse, right? Because that's what you become, a beacon. Why wouldn't you want that on your journey? You would, you'd want that. So the question becomes, how do we stay in relationship with other people who are choosing conflict, who are choosing separation, division, agitation, frustration, suffering, and pain? How do we stay in relationship with them without getting pulled into it? And it's simple. Don't get in the boat. Don't get in the boat with them. Stay on the side, hold your light, stay in your beacon, stay in your lighthouse position, and invite them into it rather than you going to them. See, what's starting to occur, and I can feel it, is you're learning this, and it's a really good opportunity for you to recognize that they can come to you and show up in peace and harmony because that's where your vibration is, and life is good and conversations are great in that place. And if you move out to them to rescue them or to give them advice or to course correct them or to even criticize, let's say, because now you're so frustrated because darn it, you got me out here and now I got to fix this, right? It's only pulling you into the conflict and into the storm. And you've learned this, and we've all learned this who have been in 4D, going back to 3D and trying to rescue people and say, come on, people that want to stay in pain and suffering, want to stay in bodily aches and pains, want to remain in relationships that are toxic, they have co-created their reality. They haven't shifted, they're not going to shift. It's you who has to shift now by choosing you first, by saying, no, I'm going to be over here. And if you don't want to be in this reality or in this particular manifestation that I've created that contains peace and harmony, then there's not a relationship anymore. Now, go back to ego self and the duality that we have within ourselves. There comes a point in time where when you are really at the edge, in the same way that life blew up for the renter, I'd invite you to look at the part, the light self within you, who has been inviting and opening up that, let's call it shadow self. Instead of diving into the shadow and saying, shadow, what's the lesson? Why are you in pain? Why are you in suffering? Why do we keep returning? Why do we keep getting angry? Why do we keep losing our temper, right? I'm speaking to myself for a moment. Like, this just occurred to me this week. It's like, what is that about? Rather than me going into the shadow, it's about now sitting in the light, sitting in the harmony, sitting in the peace, and staying there with the breath and staying there with the intention. And the shadow then has no choice but to unify, because we're now choosing. The universe conspires in our favor. We are choosing this without a doubt. We have total faith and total self-trust that we are now choosing peace and harmony, regardless of events, regardless of people and how they show up, regardless of circumstance, regardless of what might still be within us that's a little bit off, whether it's an ache or a pain, whether it's a relationship, thoughts, emotions, or whether it's other people outside of us who want us to get into that boat that's rocking and shaking. Regardless of circumstances, we're holding our own. We're choosing peace. We're choosing harmony. This is the way it is. We put the stake in the ground, and that's that. It's that simple.